Yes. Am I sure? Yes.
Sorry. It's just fucking brilliance.
Does Cassie know that we're doing this?
Yeah, she knows, but Todd or somebody tell her again, as usual, to show up.
I was about to say, but does she? Does she really?
It's kind of important to have her here for this one, I would imagine.
Yeah, she's
No,
required.
That would be great. It's like, oh, the person you want to ask the most questions of, we just didn't remind.
Just gonna kind of hold down the fort again.
I mean, I don't know if you can do that. I'm gonna have to help you out.
I'm actually kind of proud of the fact that I'm still using the old, little chibi version of Black Belt from Final Fantasy III as my avatar photo. It is great. I probably need to change that.
And Cliff has already said on Fabo that he's coming. I love
It's
his
usually late though,
Fabo?
listening.
Fabo. Yeah, Facebook dog.
Is that what the kids are calling it these days, Fabo?
Yep.
I hope not.
I'm pretty hip, so.
Bobby knows what's going on the
Awesome.
streets.
I get to ask all the questions.
Yeah. Yeah, Cliff gives his totally the types of answers he always gives. He says, "I'll be on soon. Maybe up to 5 minutes late, maybe right on the dot."
I'm just gonna let that awkwardly hang there.
Thanks. Thanks for being a good co-host. Need a laugh track over here, you dead people.
See,
Oh, I think that worked.
There he is.
See?
All right, you're not the last
Sorry to
one.
interrupt. Go ahead.
You didn't interrupt anything. We have not began. We're streaming, but we have not begun the show yet.
Okay, can you post the link for the stream?
Yes. Thanks for saying that, because I said I was going to do it for Rob, but I didn't.
It's alright.
You're
I did it the
welcome.
hard way. I got it off the Reddit because I realized I didn't
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
check the shadow on Reddit in like 10 seconds, so I needed to check it.
And now it's a party. There are 2 mages.
Ooh, magic
Yes,
run.
if you don't know, say hello to our guest tonight, Soy Mage, or Joe.
Hello, Joe. Soy
Hello.
Mage.
Hello, Elric, or Cliff, whichever one you prefer.
Either will work. I have various other aliases as well, so I'll answer to any of them.
We call them fake sins.
You haven't gone that far in establishing them.
There's Cassie. Hi, Cassie.
Hey,
She has been poked.
Hello. You can hear me, right?
yes. There's a bunch of noise in the background, though. I don't know if you have a big fan running or something.
Oh, let me crack the door close.
Crack the door closed?
That sounds like the name of a band.
I don't know how you would accomplish such a thing, but I wish you the best of luck. And I recommend you take a video so you can show us all how it's done. Sorry, I guess I'm feeling feisty today.
I closed the door. Does that help?
Yeah. We'll
No.
take it.
Alright. Live with it. I'm not on my home computer.
You know, for the longest time, like many people that I knew, as well as myself, would use the term de-thaw to describe when you were taking something out of the freezer to prepare it, you know, to properly let it warm up so it's not
Defrost.
frozen anymore. Yeah. But de-thaw is the term that a lot of people that I know used, including myself a few times. And I stopped and thought about, like, wait a minute, de-thaw would be, I'm going to take it out of the freezer, let it thaw out completely, and then put it back in the freezer.
Oh, man, you just blew my mind.
That's
I would have
totally
never
not
thought of
what I'm
that.
doing.
I would have never thought that.
Refreeze that fragger.
Right, so now that I've like pointed that out, just about everybody I know has stopped using the term. But so I've just started reusing it, or started using it again, just saying it in a way that's overly obvious that I'm being sarcastic. But otherwise, I just don't want it to go away. It was funny.
I like to say pronunciation whenever something like that comes up in conversation.
Yeah.
Well, you can always tell the people who get it. And it's like, you're one of the smart ones.
All right, who wants to volunteer to take to pay attention to questions that scroll by and note them down in case we have time to answer some? I'm asking for volunteers because I usually always volunteer Cassie, and I'm going to give her a break tonight if she wants it.
I mean, I'm staring at the chat. I make no promises though.
Todd said he'd do it. You're off the hook.
Thank God.
I was about to say we've already got a decent one, and that's how often does Elric ever do his magic after the first run?
Well, don't even ask that. I mean, don't answer it. You can ask what you want. Oh God, I'm not telling the chat not to ask.
Don't ask that.
What are you even doing here?
Quick,
All right.
throw into it.
The end of the show is where Bobby just goes down the list and says, "That's a stupid question." Next.
And everyone unsubscribes.
Oh, hey, cool. I can attend the YouTube chat thing as the Arcology podcast.
Nice.
Ooh.
Speak with voice of a podcast. All right, never mind. Sorry. Go on.
For a second, you spoke with the voice of a robot, but it went away. All right, last check. I'm going to make sure this music is working still. You heard that?
Yes.
What music?
Yes.
Shut up, Rob.
Wait, can we know how far we are? You know?
Oh, yeah, you guys want a brief real fast?
Can we know what's going on in the world?
So we don't spoil things like we did that one time?
All the times.
Yeah, we have gotten up to. I'm going to go into a little bit more of a review, but just in case someone decides to blurt out spoilers before I get into that, the episode that just came out this weekend was the episode where you guys went and met Walker, and I think it ended right when you got to the lake, and Leroy. Or rather, Rob, out of character, revealed Leroy's fear of water. Because I left that in, Rob. I couldn't find a delicate way to leave it out.
I mean, it'll just make more sense when I do completely ridiculous things in the next episode.
Yeah. So that's where we are. You guys are about to get on the plane, and you have not yet.
The plane.
The plane, okay.
Oh,
Overrated.
We're closer behind than I thought.
Right, so
Yep.
They don't know the city's been destroyed by dragons yet, then?
I missed the plane.
Speaking
Yeah,
of
right.
destroyed cities,
Fortunately, you said that
I-
before we started recording. Gosh.
Speaking of destroyed cities, I started catching up on Arcology, and it was like 23 bombs, you say.
Let's see. Get this. I'm going to make sure this is
It would
going
have been
to.
such a bad idea to deploy them, but it would have been so much fun.
Okay. I'm about to go off. Yeah, I'm about to start. So everybody shush, or I will turn this knob that makes you quiet. All right. Let me mark. We go live in 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to the Complex Action Actual Play Cast Party. This is the episode that we do every month, or rather every other month in the case of skipping last month because of busyness, but we get together for an hour, hit the record button, and have a nice casual time talking about the campaign so far, what our thoughts are, what our outer character reactions are, where we think things might be going, and just, sort of just have a good time hanging out, gives us a great opportunity to give our listeners a behind-the-scenes look at our approach to the campaign and all that kind of stuff. We also record it live, so hello chat room. Glad to have you guys as usual. I've collected a few questions for the cast from the community via Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, whatever method I can, and we'll get those throughout the show, hopefully. Maybe not all of them, but we'll try our best. We've also got a guest on with us that we've started doing, and they've got some questions in the second half. Those of you who are listening live, feel free to ask any questions in the chat throughout the show. Todd, a.k.a. Throwback, is taking those, so hopefully we'll be able to get to as many questions as possible. That's what we like to do. If at any time throughout the month, just so you know, for future reference, that you'd like to send us a question for the cast parties, you can always do that on the website, Complex Action website. That's complexaction.net. And just click on the actual play button. No, actually, click on the contact button and fill out the contact form. Just put cast party question, subject line, or something. Let's, right off the bat, let's say hello to our guest for the episode. One of our Complex Action Patreon patrons who won the drawing for this episode, Soy Mage, or I guess Joe, and I'm just going to call you Joe. So, hey, Joe.
Hey, guys. Okay, now I don't know what else to say. Where's the lines?
You can, yeah. We gave you your script, sent it to you in the mail. All the non, I don't know where I'm going with this. Hi. You can say whatever you want.
You threw it right out the friggin' window. Right out the window.
I'm chalking it to bad runners that they didn't make it. They didn't make the supplies in time.
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to say right off the bat before we get going too deeply here is that we just tried this thing with our last session where we let patrons the behind the scenes level. I think that's the I'm going to get this wrong. I think that's the $3 level and higher of Complex Action patrons. We let them listen to the show live through our Discord server. So if you're interested in doing that, there's details over on Patreon and stuff. So check that out. Also, I've been plugging it on the show. So if you've been listening, then you've heard all about it. But we had a lot of fun doing that. I think we're going to try to continue doing it, maybe if it doesn't get too much in the way with technical issues. But it was fun. So where are we? Where are we in the actual play so that we know what we can talk about and so people can have some context? We have just since the last time we had an episode, the team has helped Vesper, have rescued her, helped her with the job that she offered to them for little to no money, going into a Knights of Confederacy, bunch of racist terrorists infiltrating their compound and rescuing some orcs that were holed up in there. They did it. They went in. They rescued the orcs, set everything on fire.
Everything went according to plan.
Everything went exactly according to exactly how they planned it before they went. Leroy did not tear the plan apart up immediately.
You try sneaking with those two guys, all right? It's just, I could have had a 3-piece band out there. Wouldn't have been as bad.
Yeah, one thing that I know didn't go according to plan. I remember at some point, Elric, he got stopped by. You guys were stumbling through the woods and crit. I think you might have even crit glitched a sneaking roll.
I think I crit glitched a sneaking roll. Yeah.
And you stumbled upon a plant spirit, and. Well, you managed to talk it out of it. You offered up some karma, Elric did, but he promised. Let's see, what is? I think this audio clip covers it. I don't want to give too much away. Hold on.
It does definitely not involve burning down forests. I promise.
That's what he promised. The plant.
And I didn't burn down a forest. There may have been some things, but I burned the dreck out of the compound. And there was a clear area around the compound.
I don't really.
And I did send back a water spirit to put the fire out.
That's true.
Yeah, some trees may have been harmed, and the plant spirit may interpret the actions entirely differently. So I hope to never encounter it again.
What I do wonder, though, is when Elric started setting all those fires, did that cross his mind at all? That he had promised a spirit that he wouldn't burn the whole place down? or the forest down? Was that an actual calculated, or was just in the moment?
No, that was just in the moment, like, oh, Drek, it's all going to hell, and we have to suddenly fight these people completely unprepared now.
Right.
What? The
Look.
nitro was distracting?
I was about to
And
say, he
then,
was
yeah,
on
no, he
drugs.
took Nitro at the point where it was like, okay, now it's, now it's going down. We are in the middle of this place, and we have to fight at a disadvantage, and yeah, we're all going to get shot and killed. So here we go, everything to 11.
Yeah. I have another one from Elric that, well, and this segues nicely into the first question I wanted to ask you guys. Let me finish getting us caught up, by the way. Well, you know what?
I feel like
won't.
I'm on trial.
No, I won't get us caught up completely because I think I'll walk us through some of the things that have been happening, and that'll give us something to talk about. But the with the Knights of the Confederacy job that you guys did, Elric kind of took a really forward lead on the planning. Is he getting more comfortable with the idea of Shadowrunning, or what? Because I didn't just pick that out while I was editing and everything. I know that since then and at the time, Payday called it out, like he was impressed that Elric was kind of like jumping out there and taking charge.
Very impressed. The kid's
yeah.
doing well.
I guess Elric, yeah, he's starting to feel like he is a significant, useful contributor to the party. He doesn't feel like the kid from academia who was almost useless this tag along that's almost a constantly worried about being a liability to the team, but also wanted to keep an eye on his sister.
Right, and speaking of his sister,
he's sort of come into his own where he essentially does have the capabilities to hold his own and do well as a Shadowrunner, but his violent approach to things and knee-jerk reactions and responses have caused the situation that resulted in his sister getting put behind bars again.
Right. And speaking of his sister, I do have that other audio clip I pulled out, and I think it's my favorite one because it's hilarious because of Pillar right at the end. But anyway, it'll segue into a question I have about that. But here, hold on.
And we don't have to think about how we feel about burning people in their sleep.
They won't be sleeping. They always wake
What
up.
is wrong with you, man?
I love that because it was coming at a point when Pillar was just like, I feel like was just like, what do I do? This kid is is that what was going on with Pillar?
Oh yeah, it's just gotten crazier and crazier as we keep going. We're literally people on fire. Now we're burning them in their sleep.
That was part of the planning. Like that's kind of what that was all about. It was, you guys hadn't even gotten there yet, and he was like, oh, they won't be, they won't be
Of
sleeping.
course they're
when
going
it
to wake
happens.
up and then burn to death. They're not going to burn to death while they're sleeping.
No,
Pillar's been in prison. She's met serial killers and crazy people. She didn't expect to get out, and her little brother is away.
These are racist fraggers who are using orcs as fighting dogs in their games. They are not people.
right. No, I would say that.
Like ghouls.
I would say that's a good argument that Elric has. I would say that would be a good argument Elric has. Like of course they won't be sleeping while they're burning, but I want you to pay attention. I'm going to play this one part back. Pay attention to the tone in Elric's voice.
They won't be sleeping.
To me that sounded like really like they won't be sleeping.
Right, yeah, he narrowed his eyes and like they won't be asleep.
I do sound quite gleeful there with the prospect of burning them. Yeah.
This way Mage approves.
Yeah. There's a couple of other ones that short audio clips that I pulled out that I wanted to play you guys just for fun because I think I'm going to start
is this
like
an intervention for Elric?
No. The rest of them I don't think are Elric focused. But
I hardly ever burn people. You talk about it all the time. No, I don't. Well, we had this one time where you said, well, okay, that's bad, but that was one time, right?
Right.
You burn them alive all the time.
Hold on. Here we go. I'm gonna play this really fast.
I'm so angry.
That was just Payday. being payday. Yeah, and here's another one I like a lot. I think I'm gonna start like really pulling these out and just making like, what do you call them?
A mashup.
Yeah, a mashup of between cast party episodes. Hold on, here's another one.
It was not delicious crime, it was delicious ribs.
Oh.
Whole pork.
That's also very payday. And how about this
He
one?
likes his barbecue.
Yeah, he does.
He's just waiting for their. He's just waiting.
Whoa,
he's
whoa,
just
whoa,
waiting
whoa,
for
hold on.
their wind.
Sorry, something went crazy. But it is bad, actually. I wanted to preface this one. This is, for you guys listening to the cast party, this is kind of like a behind-the-scenes look at what we have to deal with Damien sometimes, and I thought this was particularly funny instance of it. So
He's just waiting for their wind.
Is it just me, or does it sound really choppy to everybody?
Well,
Turned into a potato.
yeah,
He's dreadfully breaking up.
Okay.
But it's going
Yeah, your connection is garbage.
separate ways of going home.
Have fun
Again.
fixing that post.
Just delete me in post.
A good speech, though, I'm sure. Lots of useful information in there and insight into your character.
so that was I liked that one a lot. Yeah. Damien often we have to just stop for a minute and wait for his internet to catch up or something.
He's like a
Fragging
excited
fun.
child. You just gotta let him work it out of his system and then calm down.
Yeah.
You guys are hilarious.
So while you guys were at that compound, there's not just while you were at it, but on your way there, while you were at it, and even I think a couple times afterwards, Leroy could not, like, again, while I was editing, I caught this after the fact, like Leroy with the hellhounds and the dog treats, like he wouldn't let it up. And does Leroy just sees the whole world in black and white, doesn't he, Rob?
What do you mean?
Like it was either the dog treats are gonna work because they're dogs, or
Makes sense, right?
like there was
Dog food. Dogs eat dog food.
like there was no nuance to that at all for Leroy. It seems like either they're gonna work or they're not, and of course they're gonna work because they look like dogs. They're kind of like dogs. I mean, in the name is hound, right?
So I think part of it is he dropped what, like $20 on that stuff, like
Was
not
there some-
including the drugs.
Was there some cognitive dissonance there? Are you saying like he wanted to justify why he spent that money?
No, I'm saying like, all right, they've got hellhounds. I have this idea, and it's gonna cost me $20. And if it works, I look like a fucking genius. And if it doesn't work, I'm out $20.
I see what
I
you're
can
saying.
go, they're magical dogs. How am I supposed to know anything?
I see what
You
you're
know how
saying.
much money we had to spend on downtime so that Elric can get the beer and gasoline stains out of his kitchen tile?
Yo,
Like, that was-
he's got
that was his
linoleum in there. It's
deposit.
fine.
That was the deposit out the window, and Leroy was nowhere to help on cleanup.
As far as feeding orcs dog food, that was even too far for Payday. Payday's like, no, man, no.
Bobby,
It did
answer
take
me
a while.
this since it's over.
Sure.
Were they feeding them dog food anyway?
Were they feeding them dog food? No, they weren't
Yeah.
feeding them dog food. They didn't react very well to it because they were highly trained
no, I'm
and
talking
they
about
were.
the orcs.
Oh, the orcs. No, they were just feeding them scraps. You know, that's the way I
See,
kind
there
of
you
saw
go.
it.
Dog foods are just like scraps. It's
The
fine.
depending on the nature of the dog food, that might have worked on the orcs. It definitely didn't work on the hellhounds because they were super trained and they were like on the job. You know.
Right. No, you had dude with bullwhip animal trainer guy. When he stepped out, I was like, oh well, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Speaking of dude with bullwhip animal trainer guy, he went down pretty easily. I'm gonna like come up with a list of ways to counter levitation, and
Is it fight inside?
that's one way. Absolutely. I don't know how many of you guys actually saw the release of that episode. The episode's title was "Why I Hate the Levitate Spell."
Yeah.
I mean, really, you're only levitating the person, so they can still shoot at you.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, except if his whole plan intended on walking up to me and squishing me very close and personal, and now he can't get closer.
Yeah.
And then now, of course, he's held right up in the air for drones to shoot at him and target him.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, in an outside area, when that levitate spell lands, you're on the clock.
To be honest, I did not really expect that to work. What big, tough, strong people get to resist that with, they should be able to resist most levitate spells.
Well, he took some hurting running through that wall of fire too, a little bit.
Yeah. But, like,
I was really surprised when it worked.
at worst, once the levitate's on, you can just start lifting him vertically. And sooner or later, like, what goes up must come back.
Yeah.
Then again, it was just kind of the Elric silverback wombo combo there anyway.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys did the job. You completed it. You got out of there. And one thing, so you met up, you handed over the orcs, and then everything started to get more somber, I think, as it all sunk in. How, like, you guys just massacred a bunch of people, and some you guys were working through it. Some people felt justified or were actively justifying it to themselves. Some people, like Pillar, I feel like, were like, what is going on? And I think that brings us to a good place to talk about what a lot of people, I think, want to know, which is why did Pillar, why is she out, and why is Wada in? And I think it's a good question to ask because it's something that we actually planned and thought a lot about, right? I'm not the type of GM that just targets a player and says, you're out of here, just without consent. So Cassie, what was the thought? What were we going through with that brought us there?
Oh, I don't know why you revealed that. I'm the type of GM, I wasn't admitting to it whenever people asked me. I acted like it was organic.
Well, there, the thing is, like, I don't know, I could go into a lot of GM philosophy kind of thing that's just my personal kind of idea, and the whole thing is story focused, and I didn't want to just pluck somebody out for any reason,
I don't know, that run was hard for me because I thought going into it we actually had like a non-lethal, like, going to black trench coat stealth it, and then it just went to it literally went up in a blaze of glory.
Right.
So I don't know, I'm the type of GM who really likes to see repercussions. And so as a player, I wanted to see something come out of that, and Pillar was definitely kind of built for a different game than what we're going for, what we ended up doing, I guess. So I was happy to kind of sacrifice her to a good story, and I think everyone's really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the fans, especially, and in story, like, I think it serves the story really, really well without, I think.
Yeah, and we've talked about, like, Haley was really like our kind of comedic relief, and
exactly,
kind of lighthearted one, and we missed having that. So I was happy to bring in a character like Wada, who can kind of fill that role, versus Pillar, who is a little bit more made to be serious.
Right. Yeah. I think that's exactly one of the reasons that it fits the tone and the mood really well, but it fits the story well because of the tension that it creates for Elric in particular, I think.
Yeah, and Pillar was meant to be this character who is in prison, who realizes that sometimes you have to make deals with people to survive. So she was meant to be a diplomat. I even took diplomacy as like my negotiation specialization. So for her to get in fights with gangers and just literally set them on fire, or even these humanist kind of supremacy groups, it's just so counter to her story and the type of character she was. It was perfect for it to have the repercussions on her.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's exactly why we did it. And Wada is so far, all of us all of us players and everything have also really loved that character. So
Tolerate.
Leroy, I feel like Leroy just tolerates his existence in the world, though.
So it's one of those things, like, when we first got rolling, it was like, all right, I got this Payday guy that I can kind of rely on, but then I had, like, Haley and Elric who were like, and Pillar was like, I thought had my back, and then there was that whole mind control thing, and it was like, all right, maybe they don't have my back, so that kind of put them in a weird spot, and now it's like, all right, little Elric is kind of growing up a little, still crazy with the fire, but okay. And we have Throwback instead of Haley, and then it was like, here comes Wada, and he's just like, oh god, here we go again.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, she's good. Exactly what Cassie said, fills that role, that hole that kind of was left by Haley. I've got a question that I thought would be good. I want to get Todd or Throwback's thoughts on this before I answer the question who it's directed towards in general. But the question was from a YouTube comment from, let me see if I can read this right, Shenaldrak. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Anyway, question is, could someone please explain to me why Elric is being made to feel bad about the concerns he's raised about Throwback's lack of working legs and his confusion of Throwback not planning to get cybernetic replacements? I feel like I've been thrust into Bizarro world. So I wanted to first ask Todd, how does Throwback react to this? I feel like we may have talked about this at a cast party already, but let me ask again, how did he react to that coming into the team? I know it's a little ways past, but he got a lot of pushback from Elric.
Yeah, Throwback is not. He hasn't always been this way, and that hasn't really come up as to exactly how it happened. But it's not exactly something he's had a lot of time to deal with. But he's had some, and so in his adult life now, he's definitely dealt with plenty of Elrics, who, whether or not they intentionally mean it, are sort of throwing some shade his way with the expectations or limitations that
Right.
Throwback has. He brushes it off. I mean, especially having seen Elric now kind of fumble around with some of his own, he's not really intimidated or concerned with Elric's judgments.
Right, and like I said, I think we've talked about it a little bit before, and Cliff has explained that Elric, kind of also realized that he had jumped to conclusions and all this kind of stuff and whatnot. But the question that is raised is why was Elric being made to feel bad about that? And I think that's an interesting question because Pillar was the one that was actually really pushing that Elric, quote unquote, should feel bad about the way he's acting. And I thought that was, there's a lot of nuance there. Why do you think Cassie Pillar did kind of say like, hey, cool it, pal, to all of that, and really give him a hard time about the way he treated Throwback?
Well, I think Pillar was one with Payday, the only two people who've really been in the shadows and have a lot of experience around shadow running. I would imagine they've probably met people just of all types, and what someone's capable of has a lot more to do with them just to prove themselves versus, immediately assuming they can't succeed, right? Especially as a Matrix character. If he had come in and said I was a street Sam, maybe
Right.
Pillar would have raised an eyebrow. But,
If Leroy ever gets retired, that's what's coming.
Yeah.
Hey, but hey, I think Elric. I think Elric does essentially raise some, legitimate concerns with the idea that, he's suddenly worried about, this person who may not be able to move around so well, and yeah, in general, a Decker would be fine, but for this mission, we have to go inside.
Right. Right.
But
And
there's that
I'll
little
remind-
bit of that.
yeah.
I'll remind our viewers that the person who failed that sneak test had two perfectly good working legs.
And it was also not Elric's fault.
That's
I
true.
think that was me that time, right? Didn't I crit
Yeah, it
glitch
was-
that first run we took Throwback
It's your
on?
Yeah.
big metal boots, I believe, that started that excitement.
But ultimately, that was a sort of pragmatic twig that Elric grasped for in what was ultimately him just wanting to reject anything that involved him being
Not
pissed
Haley.
off about Haley.
That's true.
So-
I remember you saying that it had a lot to do with you guys just finding out about Haley.
Yeah,
So
no, I think there's a lot of merit there. Like speaking out of character, I think there's a lot of merit, and it's an interesting challenge, right? We deal with low essence street Sams. We don't know what's going to set them off. We deal with psychopathic mages who could just not be able to control the spirit they summon. There's
sure.
a face that might turn a double deal and sell out their team that they just met. Like these are all challenges we face, and in this case for Throwback, it's just his mobility. But
Right.
I think when the time comes, I think you'll be surprised at just how mobile he is.
yeah, no kidding. I want to ask our guest Joe Soy Mage here. Gonna bring in Wada. Maybe. Well, you know what? Let's talk about snake oil first. So the next thing that happened. So after all that happens, the team gets invited to, under the guise of being offered a job by this Johnson, who calls himself Snake Oil. You know, very kind of on the nose foreshadowing, right? But what did you, as a listener, what did you think? Was there really a twist? I know as players, they've already told me that they felt the twist there, but was there a twist there? Like, how was that received, that whole scene, as a listener?
Me personally, as kind of a local GM, and not just for Shadowrun but for other games as well. When I started hearing this situation playing, I'm sitting here like, okay, this is fixing to turn very bad very quickly. Even worse, since you kind of point out that there are multiple guards here. They're keeping their eyes on everybody. And when you were detailing Snake Oil serving slicing up the meat and everything like that and putting it on everyone's plate, I'm just sitting here like, okay, please don't put this in a twist. I would go. Please don't put it in a twist. I would go. Please don't.
Yeah, I think I heard some on the Discord. Some people were talking about like how they were afraid that the food they were being served was going to end up being Pillar.
I am one of those people who had that fear.
She's the most delicious friend I've ever had.
But no, of course, what ended up happening was he's presumably, he doesn't explicitly say this, but I think you can presume that he's connected with Humanus, or at least the Knights of Confederacy, and ergo Humanus, and he's there to give a warning, and that warning involved having Pillar arrested, kind of trying to show that he's very well connected, and don't frag with them anymore, or this was so easy for them to do. Don't let it happen again, which I really liked. One of the reasons I did that was, for obvious story reasons and very obvious, moving stepping forward through the story and everything, but also, the Columbia is very different with their relationship. Columbia, South Carolina has a very different relationship with Humanus than I think the rest of the world that Shadowrun players are used to. Humanus is kind of like those evil dreckheads, but like kind of most of the world kind of agrees, and you're not going to get much argument there, right? But in Columbia, South Carolina, like they are a very powerful social and political force. So I was kind of trying to paint that picture, like here, this is what they do, and this is what they're able to get away with in this part of the Sixth World. You know what I mean? Yes, you know what I mean?
Silence.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I was trying to accomplish. And I think it worked. I think it worked well from the way that you guys talked about it after the fact. So,
As a listener, one thing I will say is when you were describing Snake Oil, and it popped into my mind. I don't know for anybody else, but when I saw it, all I was just seeing was Sam Rockwell in the sleazy business suit, talking to them, and I'm just in here like, oh, he would do something like this for a movie.
Right. So in my head, Snake Oil's kind of somewhere between John Goodman and what's his name? from House of Cards, Kevin Spacey, somewhere between those two. So
I don't even know what that would look like.
That's terrifying. I don't want to. I've seen Cloverfield Lane. I don't want to play with that person.
Don't no. For John Goodman, if you go with that, I see him as the Cyclops from Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
yeah, well, he's got like he's got kind of like the maybe not quite as heavy as John Goodman, but he's got kind of that stature. He's a heavier set guy, but he's got the kind of like really thick southern charm of Kevin Spacey specifically from House of Cards with that that severity behind it all, you know.
Whatever to me, Zach Galifianakis.
All right, well, you know.
Role-playing games, everyone.
Right, but yeah, so that's Snake Oil, and he's an interesting character. I had a lot of fun playing him. So Wada comes into the picture, and she has a job for everybody, and I'm interested again in Joe, in your thoughts about this. She drops the bomb on everybody to try to convince them, hey, it's time to, you know, you need to help me out with this job. Not only am I paying you, but hey, I've got information on Haley. What were you thinking? What, as a listener, what is that? How do you receive that? You know, like Haley's brought up again.
When she got brought up, now keep in mind, when I first heard Wada, I first heard her on Discord actual play when you guys did that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first appearance of her, and I'm just sitting here like, she's a Valley Girl Oni. This is going to be hilarious. And at the same time, when I was able to get back and listen to the recent episodes that have just been uploaded and heard her, really the best way I could describe it is she seemed like she was coming off well to everybody. I actually love the way her and Eon were playing out. I'm sitting here like, I won't say it's cute or adorable, but I'm just like, it is. I'm like, oh my god, this actually works and makes perfect sense. And I love
Sure.
the way Payday was also acting to that. He's just like, really? He turned even more of a grumpy Gus than usual. But when she brought up Haley, I immediately saw. I just sat there and I'm like, well, the face just opened her mouth and inserted her foot because she brought up a sore subject, aka Haley, which just made Elric even more grumpier than Payday.
But Cassie, isn't that kind of? It seems to me like that's kind of one of the ways that you're at the beginning here playing Wada is you know, sometimes putting her foot in her mouth.
Yeah, Water is the complete opposite of Pillar, where Pillar is an experienced Shadowrunner ready to go. Water is freshly into the shadows and still trying. She has a authoritative personality and can lead a team, but she's not used to doing it in the shadows, right?
Right.
We haven't really revealed what she's been doing before this, but she's used to doing it in a much different environment.
Right. I mean, she even keeps saying over and over again, Bokor says that I'm not supposed to do this, or, you know, like he's been kind of advising her in how to conduct herself in the shadows, you know?
Yeah, I think he's been her mentor kind of into getting into shadow running.
Right. So, and then you guys go on and you're in the middle of the job that you just got, which is to go out and retrieve some stuff. So that's where we are, and that's where we are. I think I had a feeling this cast party episode might run a little bit longer than normal, just because we had a lot to cover and there's a lot going on with Pillar. But I want to go ahead to make sure that we don't run out of time for this. Go ahead and get some questions for you guys from our guest. That's what we do every episode. We have a guest on, and the guest is randomly drawn from patrons of a particular level on the Complex Action Patreon. If you're interested in that, go check it out and check out the levels. You can see what that is. And and consider becoming a patron. But what I do is every month I randomly draw a name and get in touch with them and see if they want to join us on the show. And that's why Soy Mage Joe is here, and he gets to ask us some questions that we have to answer. And I assume that you've prepared some.
Yeah, one of these will actually I kind of have to scrap because it's been covered numerous times involving throwback.
Sure.
So well, the first one I will throw to everybody, not including the one I hope is written down and will be included later in the questions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's kind of for everybody in particular, but how much of yourself when you're building your characters, either for this one or for any other times you're playing Shadowrun, how often do you actually put a little bit of yourself into your character?
That's a good question. I'll answer that last. I'll start with Todd. Todd hasn't said a whole lot.
Sure. Yeah. A lot sometimes. My very first Shadowrun character ever was just me. Honestly, it was everything that I wanted to be in Shadowrun. That character played for as long as I could, and then I got to the point where I was afraid of dying because it was so much me, and it was so cool to think about that character. So
Yeah.
as I've played longer and longer, I take a lot less of me into my characters and try to either push myself into a direction that I'm not very comfortable with, or it's usually ends up just sort of being a watered down version of myself with, their own kind of special nuances. Throwback's got a little bit of me in there, mixed with a lot of just sort of being naive, I think.
Right, right. Cliff, what about you?
I would say that it's impossible not to include a good chunk of yourself because you're the one playing the character and you're the one who created it.
Right.
But I guess as far as deliberately putting aspects of myself in, I think I tend to more deliberately try to move in some ways away from myself because I'm exploring something a little bit different than, say I could normally.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know people who do that. Let's say it's role play, right? So let's do something that I would never get to do in real life, right?
I'd also say though that you just through the act of role playing and playing characters and game mastering and all that, you definitely learn I think things about yourself you might not have otherwise noticed.
Sure. I totally agree with that. What about Rob? How much of yourself do you put in your characters?
It kind of depends upon which one and the circumstance. Like, I am a super privileged 35-year-old white male. I've never
Sure.
been the target of racism, so I can't project that, but I can project man, these guys are using people as fighting dogs or something. You're treating them absolutely terrible. I am completely okay murdering them.
Sure. Yeah.
But every once in a while, there's little bits and pieces that I played a street sim on the hub by Boom Hilda who had crazy ideas. That was no, guys, this can totally work if we get a couple of hot water heaters and set them up like cannons. Look, here's the math. The math works out.
Right.
Use them to launch us. But usually not too much because I know who I am.
Sure.
And
Roleplay is
I don't know who these other people are.
Right. Well, roleplay as escapism is perfect. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people do. What about you, Cassie?
Well, it also gives you the opportunity to explore things you wouldn't normally.
Yeah, exactly.
I try harder and harder to move away from myself. I think part of that has to do a lot more with the fact that I'm primarily a GM over a player, and so I love being a GM and playing multiple type characters, right? So a lot of the characters that I end up actually playing are some version of an NPC that I've pulled in, or some personality. It's 100% the Valley Girl from California I've introduced players to over and over, and I just use that personality. So I think, as Cliff said, I think it's impossible not to bring part of yourself into it, but I try very hard to definitely try to bring in something totally different once in a while.
And Damien, finally.
So my answer is going to be a little bit different here. Coming from a little bit of a writer's background, I've had a lot of practice distancing myself from characters that I play or make up, which is the usual. However, the attitude and inspiration for Payday is essentially something that I do in real life a little bit. I've got, as you can see from my profile picture here, I've got like the dude version of like resting bitch face. I've got like resting grumpy ass face. So it's funny. I've got a couple nieces now in real life, and the littlest one I couldn't remember names or anything like that. So she remembered my wife's name, Aunt Katie, but they were like, and what about your uncle? And she could never remember my name, so she was like, Uncle Grumpy. So me being Uncle Grumpy is essentially just being Uncle Payday. I just ham it up. I ham up
Sure.
the grumpiness, and it's literally the Payday, Uncle Payday. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cert dude in the chat says, so what you're saying is Payday has his spirit mentor is Grumpy Cat.
Yeah, probably.
Yep. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist asking mentioning that last part, but oh no, because Shirt Dude is still me. Yes, I'm cheating. I'm also both in the chat. Hi, chat.
Yeah.
No, but I was about to say, in regards to the uncle portion, I understand that one completely. My oldest niece still refers to me as Uncle Dog, and she has ever since she was like able to first speak, and I'm just like, arf arf.
That's funny. Yeah. Speaking personally, I, trying to resist echoing what everybody's already said, which is it's really hard not to put yourself into a character. I don't hardly ever play, so I'm forced to, try to come up with characters that are quite different from myself. But the most recent character I've made, which I've been playing over on the Emerald Grid with Todd Cassie, and that character is totally a cheat because he's basically Sixth World Bobby.
It's hilarious.
I love it. I love getting to shoot at Bobby. Like,
we're posting YouTube videos of it. He just had a manly encounter the other day with an elf. It was.
No kidding. And the inspiration for that character was I was literally feeding my infant daughter a bottle, and I heard, this is when the character concept came into my mind months and months ago, maybe almost a year ago. But I was feeding my daughter, and I heard like some loud noises that was like a car backfiring, and it reminded me of a gunshot, and I was like, man, for some reason my mind went to, man, I wonder what like job I would have, because it made me think of Shadowrun. I wonder what job I would have if I was a Shadowrunner. I was like, of course I'd be a decker because I have a programming background. And then I thought, well, that's a great idea for a character, is a guy who's former corporate dude who has a wife and kids and has to hide, like, is too proud of the fact that he lost his job, so he's lying to his family, and he's got a Shadowrun to pay the bills and doesn't want anybody to know about it. And so then I had that character I made and just let it sit on the shelf for a while, and then joined up on so I get to play it, and it's totally me. It's like I'm all in if I was a decker in Shadowrun. So
Awesome.
straight up full of social anxieties and everything.
It's fun because it's like you were making such a big deal the last time you played about being in a closet basically with a murderer to us, like, it's just, that's Yonkers. That's our normal elf street Sam, right? But like, yeah,
right.
to normal wage slave Bobby,
right?
Is the terrifying individual.
So I don't feel too bad about it, because I joke, right, and I say it was a cheat, and I don't feel too bad about it though, because I do think that it's fun to look at what would your normal everyday person do when faced with a lot like Elric, right? What would they do when faced with a life of Shadowrunning? So I feel like I'm channeling the same kind of like idea there, I guess, as Elric. You know, how does this person who's got to deal with Shadowrunning when that's not really part of their the fabric that they're made of, you know.
That's one of my favorite concepts. Is I'm here by accident.
Right. Okay, so let's keep it moving. What's your next question you got, Joe?
Well, it's actually one towards you, Bobby. Yes,
Sure.
I'm putting you back in the spotlight.
All right.
What kind of music do you listen to when getting into what I affectionately call the GM groove? Like, what do you listen to kind of get yourself into that mindset before running?
I'm going to give you a disappointing answer because everybody's got all their GM music that they use to get them in the mindset, and I don't. When I barely have any free time to even plan for the actual play, so I have all of my people ask me questions about how I plan this or that, or what do I do, what is my strategy for this or that, and everything that I do to prepare is all of my ideas and plans, and the way I prepare is designed to make it as easy as possible. And so a lot of times I'm thinking about what's going to be happening and who's going to be doing what on the next run and what they're going to be going up against while I'm like editing. And you can't listen to music while you're editing video and audio. So I don't. I've been listening to a lot of the Decemberists lately, just while I'm doing work that doesn't require me to listen. That's kind of like my thinking music. It puts me in a funny. I should mention that because some of the you guys don't know this yet because it's not an officially released episode, but some of the people that the team is going up against, they actually have names, and those names were inspired by Decemberists songs. So, I don't have any like Shadowrunny kind of like music like people listen to. So sorry for a disappointing answer.
Remind me to spend a few free actions to ask, "What's your name?" before we murder these guys.
Right. Okay, another question.
The next two I have, well, the first one is actually for Cliff. Is kind of what's your aspirations for Elric's progression, like character wise? Kind of like where do you see and where do you kind of want his direction to go?
Yeah, I guess Elric's taken a bit of a changed his approach to things in life. Before he originally started very heavily focused on alchemy, he's moving more towards spells that he can just fling off and cast with a moment's notice because situations in Shadowrunning are fluid. But I guess as far as his aspirations go, is he is wanting to work on building a network of contacts and friends through the area so he can gradually find out information and see what he can do to arrange for his sister to be transferred to maybe a little bit safer prison situation where maybe even a different location where the humanist people aren't so strong and can't get to her as much, and essentially work on getting her free and maybe getting some vengeance, but he's trying to turn away from the whole burn somebody up mentality to more towards, hey, what more productive and more intelligent ways can I approach this situation?
You know, the last time maybe it was the last session or the session before that, this isn't a spoiler or anything. Isn't it like a rule that if you preface something with "this isn't a spoiler," then automatically that's like a spoiler? I promise it isn't. Elric said something along the lines of, just offhand, he was like, if there's any racist there, like, we're gonna take care of them, you know? I believe he said that. I'm just saying.
Well, at the same time you say that, I'm also sitting here like, Bobby, why have you not made Elric test to see if he still has Firebringer, and instead has either Shark or Bear as his mentor now?
Well, things will happen. Maybe. I don't know.
Ideas for future reference.
Right. Who's next?
What do you mean? I'm totally about bringing the fire.
Absolutely. Next question?
The next two are kind of, the next one is kind of silly. It's actually towards Leroy. Because I've noticed Leroy, he uses his hands a lot, but at the same time, it's one of those, as soon as he sees a big new shiny weapon, he's like, I have to have this. So I was kind of wondering, like, what is Leroy's quote unquote goals of of weapon collecting?
Um, Got to admit that was kind of too much Rob influence there because it was like he just put two action. Like I was expecting these trucks to have like assault rifles on them. It's like no big deal. He's like, no, they have giant frag off machine guns on them. I was like, ooh.
Well,
Then I quickly threw it on the ground.
if I could jump in there a little bit, I was my thought in that was is partly that I'm not used to groups that loot, but also partly that you guys weren't getting paid like anything, so maybe you could take something home.
Yeah, like 2 pickup trucks, a couple of medium machine guns.
Fortunately, Elric set the cyberdeck on fire.
I know, right? But like it's sitting at his domicile probably, likely underneath a towel or something in the corner, just like I hope nobody comes looking for this. Because like the next job that we got didn't sound like the kind of job that you can bring all kinds of stuff with you, so it's like, all right, this is gonna stay at home.
Right.
But yeah, no, he's done a lot of fisticuffs with his hands, and it's usually like, I'm gonna take your gun and then shoot your friend with it.
Right.
He's decent with most with most bullet dispensing items.
Portable bullet dispensaries.
Exactly.
Who's next? Who's next to be challenged with the question?
I'll throw this one towards Damien because again, the question I had for throwback, I'm having to sit here at the same time and make up a new one as I'm going through these. Is if you were asked to give any advice for people playing riggers for their own home games or locations like Emerald Grid or the Hub or ShadowNet, what advice would you give for building drones?
For building drones. Well, you know what? I haven't got to build too many drones in 5th edition yet with the Rigger 5 book, but I don't know. Like swarm rules are great if you can gear yourself towards a swarm rigger. That can be a lot of fun. Otherwise, I say try to. A lot of people try to go for the biggest gun possible, and I mean that's a lot of fun to have your one big frag off kind of gun drone. But try to gear your drones to take care of things that your group might be weak in. Realize that as a rigger, you can be Captain Overwatch. Fly spies are great, that kind of thing.
That's what I was going to say. Is that Payday? I have to be thinking about this all the time. The first couple of runs they went on, Payday was able to see everything because
Cool.
I hadn't thought about that.
Well, the really cool thing about that, the Captain Overwatch side of things, is you don't have to be a rigger for that. It's a great thing for, a street samurai or an ad or something to spend a little bit extra money on. Spend a few grand on an RCC and a few fly spies.
That's true.
You've got
RCCs aren't that expensive.
Yeah, they are not. I actually do that quite often with Street Samurais as well with the Fly Spy. I'm also soon planning on getting a drone that can handle sniper detail.
Right.
Would be a good time.
Cool. Got something
So
Oh, go ahead, Rob. Real fast.
Onto that. One, don't get attached to your drones. They are made of paper.
Yes, they are.
And will die quickly. The second thing is you have the somewhat unique advantage of how easy it is for you to upgrade your character. A mage learning a new spell is 5 karma, a bunch of downtime, and then like the resources to get it. A street samurai getting new pieces of gear is giant piles of new yen.
Sure.
Initiation, giant pile of karma, submersion, more karma. Deckers, forget about getting a new deck. A rigger, say you're into aircraft and stuff, you can be using your rotor drones and things, and you can easily just go get, let's say, a Dalmatian, which is the large flying drone. All of your skills are still relevant. All you're out is 20 grand? It's basically nothing. Throw a gun on it. Maybe pull a gun off one of your rotor drones. Or, instead of just your Dobermans for ground vehicles, you can grab another more specialized ground vehicle, you still have all of your ground vehicle skills, you still have all of your gunnery skills, you still have all of your other skills that work because it's just a drone. So like
Yeah.
you can branch out really cheaply and efficiently compared to
We lost
I
Rob.
think we lost you. Um, well, since we lost him, it gives me a chance to kind of get in there too. And the fact that another really important thing for your rigger is to get as much overlap as you can get. Like if you can get multiple drones using the same weapon, for example, that's only one auto soft that you have to go for a particular weapon, for example.
Yeah, the system certainly does favor using multiple drones of the same type and same armament as opposed to having a much more diverse range of drones.
Yeah.
crap. Where did I cut out?
I'm gonna move us on anyway, Rob. I'm sorry.
All right. That's
Just so
fine.
we can get to all the
It was
questions.
brilliant.
I'm sure it was. And do you have something for? I said, you said you had, you were coming up with something for Todd, but you haven't thrown anything at Cassie yet, have you?
Actually, you're right. Frag, please tell me I still had a note. Oh, yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you. Because I noticed this with Cassie is both of her characters have been either orcs or orc meta types, and I was just asking if or I was thinking, is that her personal preference, or did she have a preference for whenever she does play, kind of choosing meta type based on the role?
No, I definitely have a preference always for orcs or trolls. I think I've had 2 human characters in the years I've been playing. Otherwise, it's been always some type of orc or troll meta variant.
Yeah. Cool. I didn't know that. I always assumed you were picking orcs just because of the setting, because you wanted to generate conflict.
Oh no, no! It's not even Shadowrun. I play orcs in Elder Scrolls. I play orcs in D&D. So I always favor orcs in all things.
Just an orc at heart.
Just an orc in heart. Yeah, I want to be an orc in real life. I've even cosplay as an orc. There's pictures of me out on the internet as an orc.
Nice. What about you, Todd? Or not you, Todd? Directed at you. But what about a question for Todd? Did you come up with anything?
I think I did. And it's mainly there has been a lot of thoughts out of game or from the chat here, both here and on the Discord server, of how everyone tends to mention like Todd sold out pillar. How and hopefully no spoilers or anything along those lines. 'Cause I don't think it's come to that point, or even if it did come to that point. How do you yourself feel about situations where your character, because you are the second newest person next to Wada, feeling about being that guy?
Gosh, I don't know if it was kept in or not, but yeah, I mean, Elric. I'll leave it at this. Elric, in the moment of passion, was basically suiting up for war, ready to charge down to the middle of downtown and raise hellfire in order to save his sister. I just met these guys a week ago.
Yeah.
and yeah, so there's a bit of a minefield out there, right? With how much do I support these people who could potentially make me a lot of money versus do I really want to die today and for what? So I don't think we've gotten to see truly what Throwback's intentions are or his feelings are, but yeah, there's some concern there.
Well, Throwback, we did have that. That was in episode released a couple weeks ago. But Throwback actually decided to sit down and try to talk Elric down, I remember.
Yeah, he has that type of compassion. I mean, he saw a man who was hurting, and he can relate to that. He's lost before, but it wasn't like I guess I wasn't going to take no for an answer. Was kind of how Throwback was in that mindset. Thankfully we didn't have to see what happened when Elric said, "Frag you, I'm going to do it anyways."
Right.
We didn't have to see what Throwback's ultimate commitment was, but Yeah, he's definitely willing to sympathize and try to help talk sense into Elric in that moment. He's a logical guy, and then I think that came out then.
Right. Yeah, I think I liked that moment though, where he was able to talk him down, and Elric actually, you know, Elric, to his credit, is while he kind of like seems to wear his heart on his sleeve a little bit, you know, he Elric seems to, again, to his credit, he can be talked down. It's easy for him to see reason. He's a smart guy, you know. He's just very
Elric
passionate.
is as a mage, hermetic mage. I went with logic as my maxed out stat, not willpower.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also very impulsive and emotional, so
Right.
if he can be sort of slowed down into thinking about things more, he's much more likely to be receptive to that.
Yeah, I always remember that moment. Again, when they met Throwback, Pillar talked to Elric and said, "Look, you're being kind of an a-hole here to this guy," and I always remember that moment that Elric took a step back and he like saw it from a more calm down perspective, you know, and he said, "Oh man, I really am being a jerk," you know, and that's like, to me, the quintessential. He can be, you know, you can show him, he's logical. You just got to kind of calm him down, you know.
Well, it took that moment too. I mean, we couldn't do that in the forest.
Right.
There was no moment to calm that beast, and so we've kind of seen both sides of it now. When we have the chance to isolate and calm him down, he can be reasoned with. But if it's spur of the moment, or if he's got some nitro in him, look out.
Well, the whole nitro forest thing was not just Elric losing his cool. It wasn't even that. It was sort of deliberately going like, "Oh, we're in heavy combat mode now," and I was doing everything I could to draw fire to myself,
Right.
so that no one would see Pillar rescuing the orcs. Everything I could not get shot. But Elric or Leroy kept getting blasted all to hell, I think, and I was trying to draw so much attention, burning down the house, levitating the guy. It was.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say before we move on to, there's one question I got from the community that I want to hit before we kind of wrap things up, and if I'll at least mark on the audio here. Well, anyway, we might be heading out. But anyway, the last thing I want to mention before I get to that question was, you guys in that compound, you guys handled that extraordinarily well. Like there were all these little things for acting on the fly and having your plan just throwing it out the window. You had, like you said, Elric drawing a lot of attention, which drew some people around to try to take care of him. There were even people inside one of the buildings who were trying to stay down and covered so that they could take him out. But and then, you know, you had Payday's drones were laying down cover fire, while on the backside, you know, Leroy was keeping people. He's, you know, the tank guy. He's over keeping people distracted and taking bullet after bullet after he almost went down. You guys like spread out, you know, took charge and you know, executed some very tactical roles, all allowing Pillar and Vesper to sneak in and secure the orcs, you know. So good job.
Yeah, Elric is kind of disappointed that we didn't just go in there with the attitude of we're gonna do strike team and do this right.
Right.
He's like, that's the mistake. Like, looking back on it, that's what Elric calls out as the mistake that they made.
Yeah, and he has said as much out loud. So yeah.
He has, and if we could see the camera each moment that happens, Throwback sort of winces behind Elric every time he says that, wanting so desperately to battle that point, but knowing it's not the right time.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if it stayed in the actual posting because I haven't listened to it yet, but like that moment where Elric finds out the Pillar is in trouble and he's having that conversation with like especially like Payday and Throwback of like wanting to go storm the castle essentially. Yeah. Like that, we had out of character had to kind of stop and take that to OOC chat because it was becoming this really fun, intense moment in character. But like,
yeah, I remember that. You're right. We did have to stop and because we all knew a little insight here, which I'll actually the question kind of lends to this a little bit that I was going to answer real fast. But a little bit of insight is we talk a little bit about at least a little bit about the direction that we are interested in taking the story. That's no guarantee that it's not like it's still very much a game that we're role playing and the players don't know what's going to happen and they're reacting to it. But we talk about things. So we knew kind of before it was going to happen, of course, what was going to happen to Pillar. But you're right. I remember that with the way that Elric was reacting and what he wanted to do, go and do that, we had to kind of like stop and say, wait, what's going on here? Are we about to like bust someone out of prison? Yeah, I remember that. That was funny.
Well, yeah, I just specifically asked, like, well, how far do you want me to take this? Because on the one hand, I know the intention is to do a smooth transition from one character to another, but have it, happen in character in a way that makes sense as well. But on the other hand, Elric would do everything in his power to save his sister.
Right. You guys did an amazing job. You role played it really well, and it felt natural to me anyway. So the last question comes from a friend of Complex Action, Six World Podcast, all the stuff that we do. Chris Vandergriff, he asks, I guess it was directed at me as the GM. He says, how far into the characters' futures do you have key events and runs planned? And I wanted to answer this question because it gives me an opportunity to kind of talk about some of the way we, as a group, do things and approach things, and how I, as a GM, approach this actual play differently than maybe other actual plays and maybe games that you would play at home. First of all, this is a very much, from the very beginning in its inception, was intended to be a story and particularly a character-driven actual play, but very much focused on story. So I think about those kinds of things a lot. And one of the things I told people, and I could go forever talking about like how I selected people, and maybe somebody should ask me in the future in a question one day why I picked the people that I picked to ask to come and do this actual play with me. But anyway, I won't go into that. But let me just say that one of the first things I told people before asking them to come on is I said, hey, I'm doing this actual play. One thing you should know is that this is going to be, in a lot of ways, going to be, a show, an entertaining actual play first. And so there will be things that we do and take into consideration that might be different than the game you normally play. One of those things is that we have production meetings. And so we talk about what are our characters' motivations, some things that you might not consider at a normal game that you would play at home. Not that you shouldn't, but just that people might not. We talk about what are our characters' motivations, what do our characters want to accomplish long term, what do we as players want to see happen, what kind of themes do we want to explore, and stuff like that. And the reason we do that is so that we can all be on the same page and help each other's characters tell really good stories that would be interesting to listen to. So, for example, if you know that one character's goal is to, go and, I don't know, use Elric as an example, break their sister out of prison or something. Then if he starts saying things that in character that lend itself towards that goal, and you as a player, another player, see that happening, you can feed into it appropriately because you already know that that's a story that we're trying to tell. We're trying to explore that and whatnot. It just helps the storytelling. And so to more directly answer the question about how far in the future do I have events planned? Well, it's difficult. I don't want to take, again, it's character driven, and I don't want to take the autonomy away from the players in telling these stories because these guys do such an amazing job at that. So what I do is I have story arcs planned after we have our production meetings, and we talk about what are we interested in doing. I kind of take that information and have these story seeds or story arcs. Kind of like beginnings of, this is one story I want to explore. But I don't take it really much further than that. So I describe what is that story, maybe one or two details about what's going on behind the scenes that I think will be necessary to begin to tell the story, that particular story. And then I just let it sit there, and I've got a list of them. And when it seems appropriate, I will pluck at that and use something from it. A little bit of a teaser, I guess, would be, and I don't think it'll be a surprise to too many people, but for example, that's something I did during downtime one time when I had somebody approaching Payday in a bar and hitting on him, and then there was the fallout from that afterwards. Nothing's happened with that since, but that was, might be part of one of those items I have on a list somewhere, and and it's like,
no, it's not.
and it just makes it so that I feel like I can improvise better to tell stories, and I definitely have one or two main plot lines that I'm trying to focus on, but I have these other stories I can kind of pick from and say, let's peek at this for a little bit, and then maybe we'll come back to it later. It also gives me the chance to be able to say, what are people biting at? What are the players like? I spend a lot of time in the Discord and read comments and stuff. What are the listeners like? And this little thing that I picked out, if people liked that, maybe that's another story I need to tell sooner, stuff like that. So I don't really plan too much. I've made that, that's the joke that GMs tell, right? You make, as an experienced GM, you realize that that's a mistake you can make, is to plan too much. Your players get in the way of your planning a lot.
No plan ever survives contact with the players.
Right. So, but even more so in our actual play, because I want it to be so character driven, I want my players to have a lot of autonomy and control over the stories that we're telling. I try to just have them floating around out there, these stories that I want to tell. So hopefully that answers your question.
There's a pretty good one that JRX just mentioned in the chat about seeing a jealous Aeon storyline.
Sure.
Involving getting Payday a girlfriend.
Yeah,
flesh and blood one.
We definitely, all of our characters, all of our players have definitely expressed stories they want to tell from their characters' perspectives. So everyone's gonna get to tell stories, and stories will be told about all of our characters. It's just a matter of time, because I have the added challenge of having to incorporate all of the NPCs that patrons gave to me when we were first forming the actual play, and that is, I will tell you what, I thought it was going to be difficult. It's even more difficult than I thought it was going to be to get all these worked in.
What if we just made them run targets where we killed them off?
Yeah.
I'm still sad that I wasn't able to actually join in to start putting into a bring in one for that. That made me sad. I missed that. Like, darn it, I missed the cutoff date.
Yeah, and I had to set a cutoff date, and there have been other people that have said that too. Oh, is it too late for me to? And I have so many already that I would love to take them in, but if I just keep adding them to the list, it might be like years before I get to people's. And but that it has been a lot of fun. It's been really cool to have that kind of like creative influence from the outside. Giving me ideas that I may have never thought of, So like Walker, the current Johnson that these guys are about to deal with. That is a character that was submitted by a patron. I kind of put the veneer on it, but the concept of the character was given to me, and I liked it a lot. Z-Trip is another really good example. Everybody likes Z-Trip, especially Leroy.
I mean, you just named two. Like, the Walker guy, I don't trust him any farther than I could throw him, and I don't think I could throw him. So, right. I don't like that guy. And that Z-Trip guy, well...
I have a character... Some
interesting history.
I have an NPC that I have made up that I'm introducing. I wonder if Leroy would like him, but maybe I'll get to put him into the game one day.
I don't know. Is he weird, do things that don't make sense, or, try to do horrible things to me? Because those seem to be my triggers right now.
I was about to say, wait a minute. Leroy isn't just. Wait a minute. I was about to say, wait a minute. No. I'm mistaken. That's Payday who's always triggered. Leroy is triggered under fire.
He's seen action movies and bad trid, so when the guy is like, oh, he does like mind things, like, all right, this is bad. And then like the thing with Walker, it's like, hold up, wait a second here, something's. You guys see that this doesn't make sense, right?
Okay, I'm gonna ask
And then
one.
when he looks around and sees that nobody else seems to get it, he's like, this is ridiculous.
I'm gonna ask a quick question of Leroy before we head out. So give me a short answer, Rob. How does Leroy feel about Rudolph?
He seems like a legitimate actual person.
Right. I
So
had a feeling. I
he's-
had a feeling Rudolph would be a person that Leroy might actually.
He can understand him because
Right.
he's just a guy that's making money doing things that are not legal.
Right.
We're cool.
So what about
You
even?
two are-
So I guess Justice Shields kind of makes sense to him. Besides the stupid name he gave himself, he still at least makes
I
sense to him,
mean,
right?
He
A
makes
ridiculous
sense.
name.
Gives himself a ridiculous name, but like he's been in these kind of circles a little bit, so he's I'm sure met some hotshot fragging teen that gives himself some ridiculous name like
Sure.
Gundalf for like a gun adept or something like that.
Right.
Your name is dumb, and then that kid gets geeked and lays on the ground dying next to him. He's like, "You have a dumb name, kid."
All right. Well, that's going to be it for us. I am going to say goodbye and thank you to our guest, Soy Mage Joe. Thank you for coming. These were great questions.
Thank you. I'm glad I could be here. Do you guys have any more that coffee like the Arcology does, or am I gonna have to just sell for Soycaf?
We don't
The-
have
the
anywhere
one
near
that-
as much money as the Arcology, so
I thought we had some of that coffee that knocks people out instead of waking them up.
well,
You're soy mage, you get soy calf.
yeah.
That's all.
The Arcology, they've
Okay,
got a
fine.
whole facility with security, all kinds of stuff like that. We're out of my garage here, so I guess we spilled the beans on the drugged coffee, but you won't remember anyway. So
Oh, sure, yeah. Leave the orc to start sneezing. I see how it is.
thank you, chat room, for joining us as usual. We always love it when you guys are here. And from me and from everybody else here, bye-bye, guys. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
See you later,
Goodbye.
guys.
Okay, I think somebody say something.
I'm
Something.
here.
What would you like me to say?
After party, and I have no beer. None.
Yeah. I think I am eventually going to switch us over to Twitch because I can better do letting people on the stream hang out with us afterwards if we feel like it. But I can't do that on YouTube because YouTube doesn't allow me to do that as much as I want to. So I'm stopping
No
the
after
stream. Sorry, guys.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
We need to start having the live show on YouTube, and then everybody heads over to Twitch for the after party.
You know what? It went on long enough. It's fine. They got their money's worth.
Yeah.
There's like
Soy Mage,
Dropbox
Soy
we
Mage
can
can
go to.
hang out with us for a minute or two. Bye, guys.
So
Awesome.